Welcome back. Today, we're jumping right into William Sleator's psychological thriller, The Elevator. We're going to break down the intense, literally suffocating dread of a 12-year-old boy named Martin and see exactly how this story turns a boring, everyday object into an absolute nightmare. So, let me ask you, have you ever felt completely trapped? Imagine being in a situation where escape isn't just physically impossible, but emotionally impossible too. You're stuck in a space that feels like it's actively shrinking, and there's no one, absolutely no one, you can turn to for help. Well, that's the exact psychological state our protagonist Martin is forced into every single day. Section 1. The Architecture of Fear. In this story, the setting isn't just a backdrop. The building itself is an active, menacing antagonist. But to really understand Martin, we gotta understand the battle happening inside his head. Claustrophobia is so much more than just a casual dislike of small spaces. It's a profound medical reality. It's the sheer terror of being suffocated, crushed, or totally losing control because you feel entrapped. For Martin, who's a pretty frail, timid 12-year-old boy, this intense anxiety is his everyday baseline. His brain is just constantly on high alert. And that brings us to his absolutely terrifying living situation. Martin and his dad recently moved into an old apartment building, and of course, they're way up on the 17th floor. The elevator, it has a maximum capacity of only 3 people. Even with just 2, it feels totally suffocating to him. The lighting is incredibly poor, throwing these creepy, dim shadows against dirty walls. The door never stays open long enough and slams shut with this loud, terrifying clanging noise. The whole machine just shudders exhaustedly as it moves. And the only alternative to this metal box? 17 flights of dark, echoing, windowless cement stairs. Yeah, no thanks. Section 2. A Boy and His Dread. So Martin's physical environment is really only half the problem. The other half? His emotional entrapment within his own family. Let's look at this dynamic. On one hand, we have Martin. He's 12, tall, thin, and very frail. He's an introverted, sensitive kid with a highly active imagination, and he's basically paralyzed by his fear of enclosed spaces. But on the other hand, we have his father. He's strong, unsympathetic, and super practical. He believes fears should just be faced head-on, so he completely dismisses Martin's anxieties and sees his son's vulnerability as a massive weakness. So Martin is emotionally stranded long before he even steps foot inside that physical trap. To give you an idea of what Martin deals with at home, his father actually tells him, "You're not only skinny and weak and bad at sports, but you are also a coward." Ouch, right? That harsh judgment and total lack of empathy just completely amplifies Martin's deep sense of isolation. I mean, when you can't even find a safe haven in your own home, the world becomes a really terrifying place. Section 3. The Lady in Green. This sets the stage perfectly for the story's inciting incident, which is where Martin's internal fear suddenly manifests into a very physical, very terrifying reality. Sleator uses this incredibly vivid imagery. She wore an old green coat that ballooned around her, with large, fleshy cheeks, no chin, and tiny, sharp blue eyes that stared unblinkingly. Imagine being trapped in an elevator meant for 3 people, and this huge, imposing stranger locks her piercing gaze directly onto you, totally invading whatever tiny safe space you have left. And the tension just escalates like a classic thriller. First, on the 14th floor, she boards. Her massive weight literally sinks the elevator, and she just stares at him relentlessly. Then, next time, she boards on the 3rd floor. Why the 3rd floor? And instead of going to her usual spot, she presses the button for the 18th floor. She stands right in front of the buttons, forcing Martin to brush past her horrible, scratchy coat to escape. Finally, there's the morning trap. He tries to leave for school, and she's already in the elevator waiting for him, flashing him this horrifying, unsettling smile right as the doors slam shut. Section 4. The Ultimate Trap. This brings us to the harrowing climax of the story. Martin is so desperate to avoid this woman that it leads to a catastrophic mistake. He completely panics at her unsettling smile, absolutely refuses to get in the elevator, and bolts for the dark, echoing stairwell instead. But in his frantic rush, he trips on the cement stairs and breaks his leg. So what happens? He's now reliant on crutches and literally cannot use the stairs. His one alternative escape route is completely gone. He is entirely defenseless. After getting back from the hospital, Martin is forced to take the elevator with his dad. But on the 9th floor, his father stops the elevator to go visit a neighbor. Martin practically begs to go with him, absolutely terrified to be left alone. And what does his father say as the doors slide shut? "Grow up, Martin." It is just the ultimate betrayal. His father callously abandons his injured, vulnerable son alone in that metal box. And then the elevator goes up one single floor. It stops on the 10th floor. The doors slide open. The lady in the green coat steps in, completely filling the space. She reaches out with her pudgy hand, presses the stop button, and jerks them to a complete halt between floors. She looks right at him, smiles, and delivers this spine-chilling line. "Hello, Martin." She knows his name, and that is exactly where the story ends. Right there, in the dark. Section 5. Reality or hallucination. Sleator deliberately leaves us with this ambiguous cliffhanger ending, and it sparks a massive debate. Let's look at the evidence. Is she real? Well, the elevator physically dips under her massive weight. Martin actively feels her horrible, scratchy coat when he squeezes past her. And terrifyingly, she somehow knows his name at the climax. But is she imagined? Just a hallucination born from his anxiety? Think about it. She only ever appears when Martin is completely alone in the elevator. She always wears the exact same green coat. And she perfectly represents the absolute culmination of his claustrophobia. But here's the thing. Whether the lady in the green coat is a flesh and blood threat or just a phantom conjured up by a terrified mind, the true horror of the story is exactly the same. It's a manifestation of unchecked, unsupported fear collapsing a fragile mind. The real horror is how an isolated imagination can turn ordinary, everyday situations into a literal nightmare when it's left entirely in the dark by the very people supposed to protect it. Section 6. Symbols and themes. All the physical objects in this story perfectly wrap up Sleator's brilliant messaging. The setting is definitely not an accident. The 17th floor represents the extreme, isolating pinnacle of Martin's challenge. He's as far removed from the safety of the ground as he can possibly be. The vertical movement of the elevator beautifully mirrors the uncontrollable up and down fluctuations of Martin's emotional state. That final press of the stop button, that represents a total loss of control, forcing a terrifying, unavoidable confrontation. And finally, the broken leg. It's the direct physical consequence of attempting to avoid his fear, rather than having a safe space to process and face it. So it leaves us with this lingering question. When our greatest fears are dismissed by those meant to protect us, do those nightmares inevitably become our reality? Sleator doesn't just scare us with an eerie old woman in a small box. He haunts us with the incredible psychological power of the mind when it's pushed to its absolute limits. I hope this explainer helped you see the terrifying brilliance of the elevator in a whole new light. Keep analyzing, keep asking questions, and whatever you do, maybe take the stairs today.